Congressman Guy Reschenthaler. Guy, great to have you with us again. You're a big part of bringing Marc Fogel back home. He was in prison for 3.5 years in Russia, and he was able to see his 95-year-old mother again. What was that moment like?
Well, I'm totally ecstatic about the whole situation, but for Mrs. Fogel, I'd met with Mrs. Fogel several times. She actually talked to President Trump before President Trump was shot at the Butler rally. So about 45 minutes after President Trump promised Mrs. Fogel to bring Marc home, he was shot. So I think that made it very personal for President Trump as well. But it's amazing. She's 95 years old. All she wanted was to see Marc return. And the fact that we were able to do it and President Trump and his team were able to do it is absolutely incredible.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that was the most powerful things, I mean, seeing obviously him standing there with the president come in through the North Portico, but when he got off the plane, the first thing he did was kiss the ground.
Yes.
Wrap an American flag around him. I mean, there's just such that connection that it's like, after all those days, more than 1,200, I'm home. He wanted to kiss the ground to make sure it was real.
Well, it shows you when you travel to a foreign country, especially if you're thrown in a gulag in Russia, just how much more you love our country when you return. And another great example of that, Brittany Griner. She was detained in Russia wrongfully. Biden administration brought her home quickly, of course, but this is somebody who wouldn't stand for the national anthem and was very glad to return to American soil. But it's so great to see Marc Fogel return.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Biden administration. You know, Donald Trump was in office, what, 22 days, and he's able to negotiate this deal and to bring Marc Fogel home. Yet almost the entire time that Biden was our president, Marc Fogel was sitting in a prison. What does that tell you?
We couldn't even get Secretary Blinken to tell us why Marc Fogel was not put on wrongfully detained status. And again, you have to be put on wrongfully detained status to be eligible for a prisoner swap or negotiations. They wouldn't even tell members of Congress why they weren't putting him on that status. Again, Brittany Griner, similar circumstances, was put on wrongfully detained status in about 48 hours. And then the Biden administration still didn't put him on that status until Trump had won the election. I think they did it politically to deprive President Trump of that win of saying that he escalated Fogel to wrongfully detained status. But 22 days, Trump got Marc Fogel back. He languished in that gulag for over 1,200 days under Joe Biden simply because the Biden administration did not prioritize a history teacher from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
We got about 30 seconds left, Congressman. I think one of the biggest things, and you talked about this, they used this to try to get with Donald Trump. They know that Donald Trump's not messing around. There's no negotiation. Yes, they got some hacker or something, but you didn't get the merchant of death like we gave up for a WNBA player.
Biden gave up the merchant of death, and instead of getting Wieland at the same time as Griner and Marc Fogel, we just got back Griner. But again, this shows that President Trump is taken very seriously around the world, especially by our adversaries. They know that when he makes a threat, he'll stand behind it.
All right, good stuff. Great to have you with us.
Thanks, good to be here.
And thanks again for doing all of that work to get Marc Fogel home.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, much more to come. Stay with us.